Hi everyone, welcome back to the Curated Shelf and good to have you all here. So for today's video, I kind of wasn't sure where I was going, to be quite honest with you, and then I thought maybe it'd be good just to go over a few things that I'm kind of currently dealing with in terms of just everyday life, and then talk about what I'm using to help myself through it. So I think that's a little bit more closer to home in terms of day-to-day life, and it kind of touches upon tarot and oracle decks, which I've been doing lately, but also maybe a couple of books as well, and that kind of thing. So so welcome back and good to have you all here. It is bright and sunny in Belgium, which I'm very happy to say. And this is August, and where I live in Brussels, we kind of go through a bit of a shutdown. It gets very quiet, and most of the time people just take this time to either go away on holiday, they go back to the country they've come from. We have a lot of expats here, or a lot of us just go away for weekends away and that kind of thing, and it's just a really quiet wind down period. And I decided this month, well, it wasn't much of a decision, it was kind of something that naturally happened, was that I thought it's time to let go of a few things. And it began really kind of very specific. I wanted to reduce clothing. I've got way too much clothing. The wardrobe was at that point where we can all identify, I guess, or some of us can at least, where you open it and the clothes are kind of coming at you or coming at me kind of thing. It was just right, okay. Or I'd open a drawer and I'd be I can't even see the wood from the trees. What was I looking for? Because there was so much stuff. So I've been paring down and scaling back over time, but I began with a really small space. I wasn't really planning a lot, and then it's just been on a roll from there. And every few days, I tackle an area, and it's just a tremendous change. And I thought I would kind of wind back to a little bit about what I'm learning from this process. I don't want to call it decluttering or minimalism or all of those things. And the reason why I say it is because I'm not a minimalist. I just don't fall into that category. And I'm not sure if I think of myself as a hoarder, because that really is a very specific compulsion, a form of addiction in some ways. People do need support and help for it. And I don't want to self-diagnose myself in that sense, because I don't really identify with that either. But I do fall into the bracket somewhere in the middle, or maybe more towards the keeping side of just holding on to things for just way too long. So, I wore that beautiful whatever 4 years ago on a fantastic evening, and for some reason I've held on to it, and then I have never worn it again. There was just too much of that going on, and I kind of realized, that it's time to also let go of things. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, and maybe this needs to be a much wider video, but the other thing I wanted to mention was that during, well before COVID, I was kind of cutting back on just stuff in the house basically, and having stuff and buying stuff. But then during COVID, what happened was that I just didn't want to buy anything. I was just completely off that. But also B, because a lot of our shops and stores closed down for a while, and then on top of that, when they did open, I wasn't buying anything. And then we went through the really big quarantine over winter, and then autumn, from October till April basically. We had a huge shutdown here on a lot of the continental European countries, so Belgium, Germany, Netherlands, that kind of thing. And during that shutdown, what was really interesting was I had a lot of stuff in the house, but in a way I couldn't declutter because there was nowhere to go and give it away to, unless I was going to literally throw it in the bin, which I just didn't think it was the right thing. So it was a really interesting period of about 6 to 8 months where I wasn't buying anything and I wasn't letting go of anything. And so it became a really good way for me to see what is it that I actually use, what do I need, what means something to me, and I go back to, or I hold that value of it. And what is it where I can recognize that was from years ago and I just don't need it anymore. So I've had that period, and I just knew when spring was coming, or Ostara, as we were saying, in the witchy community, I just knew that there was going to be a process where at some point I would just address these things, and I wanted to do it naturally. I didn't want to do like, I'm going to do 5 days of decluttering and then dump it all, because, the reason why I want to say this, and it's all coming out hopefully organically and maybe unstructured, but hopefully it makes sense, is that I'm also somebody who can do a really fantastic declutter exercise, and actually, I'm going to make up this word, reclutter, because I'll just go back out and buy similar stuff because for some reason in my head I think I need it. And I know many people are like, no, that's not the point. And I understand it's not the point, but it's just, I've observed myself in these cycles. And the cycles can be really wide as well. It's not like, I can see it straight away. So this time it was really important that I did it organically. So it wasn't under like a pressure of like, we're going to do it in a week and then I'm done and I'm ready and everything's going to look sparkly and new. It was more just like, one afternoon in the week, I just went through all of my jeans, and that was a bit of a fail because I still have some of them, many of them, but I did get rid of some others, and there was that classic moment where it's like, I think I'm going to fit into that again, when it was just like, no, I'm not going to fit into that again. So it was just interesting that, like, first of all, the way I approached it was really, really important for me, which wasn't like under a pressure. It wasn't because somebody was telling me I need to do it. And secondly, I just want to mention this, was that it wasn't because I was moving. It wasn't like, oh my God, I have to move in like 2 months' time or 1 month's time and I need to get rid of stuff. It was really just time to let go. So that was helpful. But the other thing that I've been going through in the last few weeks is, again, it goes back to that 6 to 8 months where I wasn't bringing things in and I wasn't laying things out. Was I did notice when I did buy kind of like the odd occasional item, I was very careful to notice what was it and why did I buy it and that kind of thing. And it was really helpful because I started to realize what I actually needed and used as opposed to what I thought I wanted or needed. So it's what some people would call, when they go through this process, the fantasy self. I began to recognize what was really sitting in my home, which was the fantasy self, what was sitting in my home, which is of value to me in the sense of use and everyday living. So that was the other part of it. And so this process has been really kind of like, there's a lot of nostalgia. There's a lot of kind of like, also looking at finances, how much I've spent on things. Was it worth it? There's also a lot of what I would say emotional attachment, because it either represents a memory of something that has been or a hope of what it could have been. So it's a regret in a way. And so there was a lot of that as well that I needed to look at. And that's been a huge part of the last few weeks. So the reason I wanted to mention that was because, I wanted to do a video where I kind of like take everyday life and then I talk about, well, what's helping me? Because this channel is called The Curated Shelf, right? So what's helping me through it? Because these are times where I believe that we are really exposed, and it's not easy. And on top of that, like, I always go back to, like, I keep repeating it, but I just want to do things in a way, or I'm trying to, let's put it that way, where I let go and I just don't reaccumulate. And that's really, really not as easy as, well, maybe it's easy for some, but it's not easy for me, because there is always going to be a point in me where I've let go of something and then I want to fill that hole really, really quickly. And it's kind of like, sometimes, I've had to say to myself, I let go of, I don't know, 3 blazers that just I never wore. Great. And then I kid you not, like within a week or two, I'll be like, I'll see somebody walking down the street wearing something. I'll be like, oh, that looks really cool. And, and that's the bit where I've got to watch it, because that's kind of like the bit where the reaccumulation starts again. And so it's been a process of just being still and also, I'm happy to do videos on this, but, I've also gone through a huge weight change. That happened about 8-9 years ago, but where I went through a significant body physical change. And that was interesting as well, because that taught me a lot about letting go of weight and not reaccumulating it. just bit by bit. Like, I never think of it as a guarantee. It's just always a process. I'm always learning. I'm always making mistakes as well there. But the reason why I mentioned that was that I've always liked that when I go through processes, it's just really important for me to watch what I'm doing, because it shows a lot of patterns. And whilst I can never clear and completely perfect myself and heal everything, that's the word that we're using, healing, however you want to say it, I will never be rid of all of my energies and my patterns and all of my default settings in that sense. But what I can do is grow in my awareness. So, and the best thing I always think to turn to is, books, journaling, and these days I use Oracle and Tarot decks. So yeah, this is what this video has been about. And it's a bit of a ramble, we're not at 11 minutes, but maybe just give you a few of the things that I've kind of learnt from so far from decluttering, if you want to call it that. And I'm still in the process, by the way, it's not finished. And that was the other thing, because today, when I was thinking about the video I was going to do, I was thinking about it yesterday as well, something in my head said, I'm going to do the video when of decluttering when everything's perfect, and I've rearranged my videoing space, and then everybody will see a whole new space, and they'll be like, what happened? And then I'll talk about decluttering and how it's all turned out. And I realized that again was like the bit where I'm going to sell something false. So I thought, why don't I just talk about it now, so that people know that I'm in a process, and that, yeah, some of this stuff also will be addressed. I've already taken off like about 30 books. I've got, I think, about 400 books right now. I've taken away 30, so less than 10% still. But, there's going to be more that's going as well to charity. I'm happy to give things to charity, not because I don't want to resell or I don't value them, but it's just because here the cost of sometimes selling things is more than, it's just, sometimes also I just feel like some things, like, some places have said that, this is great, we can actually sell this stuff. So I'm really happy to do that. That's just me. It's my personal choice. I'm not saying you have to do that. But actually, let me just jump onto then my processes and some of the thoughts that I've had recently, which is, first of all, I have gone through again and again in my mind the learning that more doesn't mean better, which is really like simply like, duh, we all know that. But really, like, when I've been going through it again and again, it comes into my mind, more is not better. Like, just see, and as the space lifts and the energy lifts inside my home, I can feel that difference. The other thing is that, that I always thought that the more items I have, the more comfortable I am, the more secure I am. And interestingly, one of the things that I have learned through my years, and it's still there today, I'm having to just, it's a process, I'm always relearning, is that I sometimes value my things more than myself, which is so ridiculous, but that's the truth. I sometimes value the items more than me, and it's almost like I have to walk around my items because they're so precious. And I feel like I want to keep my things well. I am somebody that likes to keep things clean, in good condition. I do like to use them, but I like to keep them in the best condition I can. That's just how I am. But there's a balance between that and tiptoeing around my items. And it was a little bit like I was tiptoeing around my items and, where they were stored, and then pulling things out to clean underneath and then putting them back in again. And that was the best part of the 8 months where we were in complete kind of like the darkest winter ever, like the winter of discontent kind of thing. Was I just remembered that winter because I knew that's when I was going to let go of things in the Ostara period, or spring, as some people might say. It was because I was just like, I have removed this case from this area, cleaned around and put it back again for like the 8th weekend in a row, because every weekend I clean. Like, that's just who I am. I set days that I like to clean. And I was just like, I can't believe I've just cleaned again the same spot, moving the items out. And I just thought, okay, like, this is me spending a lot of energy and time on things, and I don't need every single item in that pack, and I need to still go through it and get, keep a few things that I think are going to be helpful, but let go of the other things. So that was the other thing. Another thing that I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years actually now, it's not just this year, is and it's an interesting one, is living in continental Europe, especially Northwest Europe, as many of you know. It's cold, it's windy, it's wet, it's rainy, it's damp. We hover around, I think it's 50 Fahrenheit or something like that, or in Celsius. This summer it's been awful, but like our winters are pretty much weeks below freezing. So I need winter jackets. But what was interesting was that last year and the year before, for some reason, I ended up wearing like this like khaki kind of like now it's gone from my mind, but like basically a hooded outdoor jacket, and it's like the same jacket now. I dry clean it every year. I've worn for 4 or 5 years in a row, and the reason why I did that was because I wanted to figure out, do I have the patience to keep doing that? And what happens when I keep doing that? What happens when I keep wearing the same jacket year after year after year? And because it's so cold for so long, people are going to see me in it. But it's cleaned every year, so it's not like I'm wearing, or twice a year. It's not like I'm wearing something and it's not in a good condition. But what was interesting was that I kind of like did that, and as I did that, it felt so freeing because I could see how little I was using of everything else. So I just want to say that like also my process has just taught me again and again of just reusing the same thing and being okay with it, and how calming that feels to me. I know that sounds strange, but it sounds calming, and it brings me back to, I think it was Mark Zuckerberg. Now everybody's going to shoot me. I'm quoting from the owner of Facebook, I know, but I think it was him who said it, that he wears like a grey hoodie and a pair of jeans and a white t-shirt or something. Like he has this very simple combo, and I think Steve Jobs of Apple did it as well, where he had a black polo neck and a pair of jeans. Now, I will never go down to that point. Let's be clear. I do like wearing nice stuff sometimes. I like wearing variety for sure. But they did say that choice can become very, very stifling. It's almost like it can end up becoming a headache, And I did realize that when I was just wearing the same winter overcoat every single year, for some reason I can't get the name out of my mind out there, but when I was wearing the same winter coat every year, I realized I eliminated choice. And when I eliminated choice, I just made it so kind of like, this is not difficult, just wear it. And I always have got a backup Uniqlo kind of like really light, puffy but warm coat in case something happens to the main one that I'm using. So I have enough, I was covered basically, and I was like, nothing's gonna happen basically. So yeah, so I just wanted to mention some of the things that I've learned in that sense. And the other thing that I just want to say is that that like when I've approached this process and I've spoken about this, I need to be ready mentally and emotionally, not forced into it, not with somebody sitting there going, get on with it. Like 2 sacks, that's not enough. You should have done 4 by now. You've been sitting there for 2 hours. That it's not going to help me. That's just going to make me feel very frustrated. I'll do it. I won't be very happy. I'll feel flustered. And that's when I feel things, and then to make others happy or to tick some boxes, and then I kid you not, within a few weeks stuff will come back into the house. Somehow I'll go out and buy something. So this was really, or if I was moving, I would do it in a fluster and feel angry and resentful and angst, and my whole move would be filled with damn you, whoever. But I just didn't want to do it on that time pressure basis. So I've spoken about that before, but that was really important for me, was to be mentally and emotionally kind to myself going into it and doing it, and not setting myself up for some kind of a huge goal which I can't attain. The other thing that I want to just say, I'm just checking my notes here, is and I noticed this when I was speaking to friends. Oh God, I've gone on for 20 minutes. I hope that's okay. If you're going through like a phase of letting go of things, declutter, how you want to call it, one of the things that people do sometimes, and I've done it myself, is that we beat ourselves up for buying something, and then we put it on like 3 or 4 years later and we think, oh, why did I buy that? And what I've learned is that I've bought things and worn them and enjoyed them for that time period, and it's okay to say they served their purpose in that time period. I don't have to put a gun to my head and say, if I liked it at this age, then I should like it 5 years later at this age. That's just, sometimes that just doesn't work. And the other part of that is, and I think this, I don't know if it relates to, you know, if it relates to both sexes or both genders, however you want to put it, but I know I've heard this with women especially, and I've done it to myself as well, where I will save something thinking I'll reuse it in the future, and especially when it comes to clothing, like, oh, I know I can use that in the future. I can do that with a tarot deck as well. I know I'll use that in the future. Or I know that book, I'll read it in the future because everybody's talking about it. So at some point I need to read it. And that future is always out there, you know? And the thing is that when I'm out there in that future, I don't actually pay attention to the fact that I'm liking and using things now and what they mean to me and why I'm liking them. So I never actually discover myself because I'm still in the whole making up, you know, what's going to look like in the future. And this is the bit where it's like, you know, it's that cliche where life is not a rehearsal, you know, it's like life is not a dress rehearsal, whatever you want to say, or like, you know, I'm waiting for the curtains to open and the show to begin. It's like, no, the show is going on. It's now. This is the play. This is it. And it's a bit like that when it comes to items, you know, that future. And I said this to a friend recently, and I've said it to myself. You know, if I change weight or if I change taste, whatever I need at that point in my life, I'm pretty sure in this world it will be available for me to repurchase. And if it's meant to be, I will have the finances to repurchase it or whatever it is. But I don't need to hold on to the item until that mythical future appears, you know? And that's the bit that I just want to say, that, you know, that it's been just, and it doesn't mean that everybody has to get rid of their sentimental items, or you should do this or you should do that, but it's just something that I've learned about my, you know, they call it the fantasy self or whatever you want to call it, but it's like, I call it the mythic self that exists out there. It's like, no, I'm not living in a parallel universe, I'm living in this one. And so and so just some of the things that I thought I'd mention: style changes, lifestyle changes, who we are changes, what we like changes. And to, you know, that's the thing also I just want to mention, like, one last thing, is that sometimes there's this pressure to be minimalist, honestly, or like, you know, I'll just buy all the neutrals, and neutral colors will make me happy forever. And it's not going to make me happy forever. I like bright colors. You can see it from the background of my shelf already. You know, I like bright colors. I like variation. I don't want to punish myself for one day, or not one day, but like just going through a period where I've liked colors, or I've liked this, or I've liked that. So I just want to say that I just want to embrace that there's a lot of kind of like, you don't need everything and get rid of it all. To a point, that's valid, but if it becomes shaming and it becomes that people feel so much like, I can't buy it because it's not going to fit into this new mantra of like minimalism or whatever, and it drives you nuts, like, please don't force yourself down that road either, because people, you know, it's a bit like the weight journey. When people go through it and they go through so fast, and there's a sense of deprivation, the bust happens, or at some point, you know, it's like a yo-yo happens. And I think same with items. So instead, just find your happy medium, whatever that is for you. I've dribbled on enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop just very briefly. I know a lot of you like tarot and oracle decks, so I just thought I'd share the decks that I've kind of like been turning to recently that I've used on and off. And I want to say there's these independent decks or these fantastic decks, but these are just not my normal decks that I've turned to, which you can get from Amazon, the mass market, but I love them. So one of the ones that I've been loving is the Oracle of Shadow and Light by Lucy Cavendish. I'm really getting to know this deck. There's also Oracle of the Shapeshifters, which I've also got, which I also dip into, but this one I'm really, really loving, especially. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but I like it because, okay, so the images are kind of like, you know, some people will like them, some people won't. They're very distinct in terms of the big head and the doe eyes and the skinny body. It's like, okay. But the reason why I really like this deck is because I love the guidebook, and the guidebook is really, really kind of like, sometimes it does take a person to, you know, here's a bit of truth, and or, you know, is this really how you feel? Let's get to the honest part of it. And I like it because I like the honesty in this deck. I'm okay with the images, but more than anything, I like the honesty in the deck, the guidebook. I like the fact that it gives me food to think about. It gives me a bit of direction. I will use this every now and then. It's because it's such a, you know, these are powerful readings that you can get from it. So I don't use it all the time, but like maybe once every 10 days, I'll pull out a card and see what kind of energy I'm getting from it. And it's been really good. I like it a lot. And yeah, and I love the artwork. So this is by Lucy Cavendish, and the illustrator is Jasmine Becker-Griffith. It's a very well-known deck you can get from Amazon, and that's Oracle of Shadows and Light. So that's one of them. So the other deck that I've been tapping into, sorry, I'm just trying to maneuver this, is, so I'm going kind of like from shadow towards a light. But this is a little bit in the middle for me. Well, it's Earth Magic. It's a light deck. It's not that dark or anything, but I like it because it's earthy, and I like earthy decks. I really, really like earthy decks. So, you know, this one I would consider more of an energy of Fey energy, and Fey energy for me is a mixture of earth and air. It has all the elements, but that's how I feel sometimes. It's more of a Fey energy. This one for me really is an earth energy, and it's landscape. Some of it's landscape. I love it. I love the fact that I feel like I'm going through a portal. It's very shamanic. It's very gentle. I like it because it's taking me to worlds that I'm not going to really be visiting, like, you know, an iceberg pretty soon, but it just draws me in a certain way. I love the artwork. It's the author is Stephen D. Farmer. I need to check who the illustrator is. I'm going to check that in a moment, but this is the cover, Stephen Farmer. He's also done a few other decks as well. He's also done here, I've got Messages from Your Animal Spirit Guides. That's Stephen Farmer as well. So yeah, I'm really, really loving this. I love the earthiness of it. I love the fact that it touches upon the seasons. It's look at that. I mean, it's spectacular. I wish they would redo this deck in matte, actually. But the cards don't stick. It's a very good quality card deck. The cards don't stick. It's just, yeah, I really like that matte finish. And yeah, and I just I think now I just realised it. I think the artists vary, because I think that's Josephine Wall. I need to check, but I think that is. So that's why I think that it's just not one artist, but I'll have to check it. So yeah, I really love this deck. It's like a real mixture of earth pulling in that cosmic energy. Just exquisitely done. I think it goes with a lot of tarot decks, but these are the cards that I would pull. For me, I would pull something like this at night and then just do 2 or 3 pages of journaling. And for me, this is really good, especially as I'm going through a period of decluttering. Like, there are going to be days where I'm going to be looking at something going, I've had to just let go of, like, I don't know, 4 bags of blah, and did I need to do that? Did I need to buy that? And my head will be just a little bit full. And this is the kind of deck which really just feels very grounding, and that, you know, I'm safe, and, you know, I'm just going through growth, and this is the growth that I'm going through right now. So yeah, I absolutely adore this deck. So well done. And an all year round deck as well to use. Okay, so that was Earth Magic by Stephen Farmer. And then the final deck I want to show is one which I said to a friend, my friend Natasha, I said to her, I said, I bought this deck, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to say anything mean, because like I bought it on a whim, and I really just, yeah, it's a deck that I find it so, how can I put it? I think if I'd got this deck when I was like, I don't know, 16, 17, it would have been the perfect time, because I was going, yeah, we go through rough periods in our life. You know, my teens was not great. Let's just put it that way. I think I struggled a lot as a teenager, and this is the kind of deck which, if it had been around then, I think it would have been perfect. And I think that's why, you know, I like it, because it helps me to draw upon certain energies within me. And yeah, this is Carl Gray's Keepers of the Light. It's just such a simple deck. Now I wish they would redo this one in matte as well. I think they should. There's other decks as well that I'm hoping Hay House just switches over everything to matte soon. But yeah, this is artwork by Lily Moses. I really, really love this deck. It's just so simple. And it was last night when I realized, because I again pull sometimes, instead of the Steve Farmer, I'll pull this as a nightly draw and then just journal for a couple of pages. The reason why I think I really like this deck is because it's, for me personally, and I like the guidebook as well. The guidebook is pretty short readings here, written by Carl Gray. Oh, sorry. The reason why I really like this deck is, I think, because it's very straightforward. It's not complicated. I'm not reading 3 pages. I'm not reading messages where I'm sitting there going, huh? You know, this is Kuan Yin, or meant to be a representation of Kuan Yin. It says care and compassion, and then it says at the bottom, choose to be loved, do what is right for everyone involved, offer a helping hand. You know, I'm not going to sit there thinking, oh, I wonder what depths of my soul she wants me to look at. You know, it's really, really straightforward, and sometimes that's what we need. We just need really straightforward messages. So yeah, I just find that this deck doesn't let me down, and it's just so uncomplicated in so many ways. And yeah, and I've just liked to use it. So yeah, I just thought I'd show a few decks at the end. Bit of a ramble, because you've just heard me talk about declutter for about a good 30 minutes, but there you go. And I hope you enjoyed watching this, and see you soon. Take care.